real family and their real spouse and the commitment they made there versus what they're getting out of this affair. And once you get caught, you don't get to live in both worlds, not generally speaking.
For nearly 3 decades, Dr. Doug Weiss and Lisa Weiss were seen as the epitome of a successful, loving marriage. Doug, a renowned marriage counselor and therapist, and Lisa, an accomplished writer and novelist, built a life together that many people admired. Doug's expertise in marriage and relationship counseling, particularly around sexual addiction and intimacy anorexia, helped countless couples rebuild their lives. Lisa, a sensitive and insightful writer, supported Doug's work while also pursuing her own creative endeavors. Together, they created a partnership that appeared to be both personal and professional, with their work and personal lives deeply intertwined. However, as often happens behind closed doors, their perfect marriage began to show signs of cracks, and eventually, the facade crumbled. Despite Doug's public persona as an expert in relationship counseling, their marriage faced challenges that neither of them could overcome. The reality of their personal struggles remained hidden for years, with the couple maintaining a united front while navigating the complexities of their issues. Yet, as the years passed, the emotional distance between them grew. Their love, once vibrant and filled with promise, began to fade. The early years, a marriage built on a public image. For nearly 3 decades, Dr. Doug Weiss and Lisa Weiss seemed like the perfect couple, an ideal match who had it all. Doug, a renowned marriage counselor and the founder of the Heart to Heart Counseling Center, built his career on repairing relationships, and Lisa, an acclaimed novelist, contributed her creative depth to their shared life. The couple had built a strong foundation based on mutual respect, love, and shared faith, something that seemed to epitomize the image of a perfect Christian marriage. But what the public didn't see, behind the glowing images and inspiring words from Doug's platform, were the cracks that slowly began to form within their relationship. While Doug's career flourished, and he became a well-known figure in the world of marriage counseling, helping couples overcome marital issues and promoting the sanctity of marriage, his own marriage with Lisa began to deteriorate. The pressure of living up to public expectations and maintaining a facade of perfection weighed heavily on their relationship. Lisa began to notice subtle but significant changes in their connection. The emotional intimacy that had once been the bedrock of their union started to fade. Doug, ever the dedicated counselor, became more focused on his work, to the point where it seemed as though his career had become his primary relationship. Despite her own achievements and personal passions, Lisa often felt invisible and emotionally neglected. This slow drift created a chasm that neither party seemed to be able to bridge, no matter how hard Lisa tried to revive the bond they once shared. The beginning of the end. Signs of separation. Though their marriage appeared solid to the public, the emotional distance between Doug and Lisa deepened over the years. Lisa became increasingly disillusioned, struggling with the realization that the man she once thought would be her partner for life was no longer the person she had married. In private, the couple experienced tensions that Doug's public persona as a marriage expert could not shield from view. There were no grandiose arguments or dramatic events, but instead, a gradual and painful erosion of their connection. Doug, absorbed in his career and public role, seemed emotionally unavailable, and Lisa, left to fend for herself emotionally, began to feel isolated. Eventually, the separation came as a shock to many. Doug, who had spent years advising couples on how to resolve their issues, announced his decision to divorce Lisa after 30 years together. The timing of the announcement was as jarring as the news itself. Doug, whose entire career was built on the concept of saving relationships, seemed to disregard the very advice he had spent decades offering others. His decision to end his marriage raised numerous questions. Was he applying the same methods of counseling to his own life, or was something more personal at play? For Lisa, the most painful part of the marriage was the gradual emotional disconnect she felt from Doug. He had always been deeply involved in his work, but over time, it seemed that his career and the people he helped became more important to him than his own family. He was always willing to help others work through their problems, Yet he failed to give the same attention to the woman who had stood by his side for decades. As his dedication to his professional life grew, so did the emotional distance in their marriage. Lisa often described herself as feeling invisible in her own home. She was not just his wife, she was his partner in life and work. But as time went on, she began to feel like she was living in the shadows of his career. The marriage, however, was not crumbling because of open disputes or fights, but because of the slow, insidious process of emotional neglect. Doug's inability or unwillingness to prioritize his marriage over his career became a point of tension between the couple. Lisa began to feel as if she was no longer a priority, and over time, this deepened her sense of isolation. She did not want to bring these issues to the public eye, but as their relationship continued to deteriorate, she felt increasingly trapped in a lonely marriage, desperate for Doug to recognize the emotional distance between them. This was a marriage that lived under a microscope. Doug's work and reputation as a marriage expert meant that their personal lives were frequently scrutinized by the public. His ability to help countless couples restore their relationships made it all the more difficult for people to understand why he could not do the same for his own. The irony was palpable. Here was a man whose entire career was built on helping people heal emotionally and relationally, yet he couldn't seem to save his own marriage from crumbling. For those who had followed Doug's career, this was a bitter pill to swallow, especially when the cracks in his personal life were exposed to the public. The divorce announcement and its shockwave. When Doug announced his divorce from Lisa, it shocked everyone who knew the couple. For years, they had been seen as the model of a successful marriage. Doug was the expert, the therapist who had authored numerous books, appeared on national television programs, and counseled individuals and couples through their most difficult moments. Lisa, an intelligent and creative woman, had always been his support system. Together, they had worked side by side for nearly 30 years. To many, Doug's decision to divorce after so many years together felt like a betrayal. How could someone who dedicated his career to the preservation of relationships abandon his own? Lisa was left to pick up the pieces of her life and deal with the heartbreak of a marriage that had been torn apart. Her pain was not just personal, it was amplified by the public's perception of her marriage. Lisa had stood by Doug's side for years, supporting his career and his personal growth. Yet in the end, she was left with nothing but the emotional wreckage of a life that was no longer hers. But what came next would shock people even more. Just months after the divorce, Doug remarried. His new wife, Joni Lamb, co-founder of Daystar Television Network and widow of Marcus Lamb, was a woman who was already well known in the Christian broadcasting world. Joni's husband Marcus had passed away in 2021, and just a short time later, she and Doug's relationship became public. For many, this new marriage seemed to move far too quickly. Was this a genuine case of love blossoming unexpectedly? Or was there something more to the story? People were left asking questions. The timing of Doug's new relationship was unsettling. How could someone who had just ended a 30-year marriage commit so quickly to someone else? Was he emotionally ready for another relationship, or was this a rebound marriage? For Lisa, the speed with which Doug moved on was particularly painful. After spending decades with someone, she was forced to watch him marry someone else so soon. The abrupt transition was difficult to comprehend, especially for those who had been close to the couple. Who is Joni Lamb? Joni Lamb is a prominent figure in the Christian world. She co-founded Daystar Television Network alongside her late husband Marcus Lamb, who passed away unexpectedly in 2021. Daystar has become one of the largest Christian television networks globally, reaching millions of viewers. Joni's role as president and executive producer of Daystar was instrumental in the network's growth, and she quickly became a respected leader in the Christian community. Her relationship with Doug, however, raised eyebrows, particularly because of the timing. In the wake of Marcus's death, Joni was grieving, yet her relationship with Doug seemed to bloom rapidly. Was she truly ready for another relationship, or was this a case of her seeking comfort in the arms of someone who could understand the loss of a spouse? Many people questioned whether the grief from losing Marcus had led Joni to jump into a new relationship too quickly. Joni's followers, however, saw her relationship with Doug as a step toward healing and a new chapter in her life. She had experienced immense grief from the loss of Marcus, and many believed that Doug, with his background in therapy and relationship counseling, could provide the support she needed during such a challenging time. However, for Lisa, seeing Doug marry Joni so soon after their divorce was a betrayal on multiple levels. Not only had Doug moved on quickly, but he had also remarried a woman who was already well known in their community. Joni had worked alongside Doug in the Christian broadcasting world, and their relationship was now under public scrutiny. For Lisa, it was as though her 30 years with Doug had been replaced by something new, something that was much more public and much more complicated. The public scrutiny and Lisa Weiss's decision to speak out. In the months that followed Doug and Joni's marriage, Lisa felt the weight of the public's judgment. She had stayed silent for years, enduring the emotional struggles of her marriage without revealing the full extent of what had happened behind closed doors. But after seeing how quickly Doug moved on, Lisa felt compelled to speak out. She had to reclaim her voice, to let the world know her side of the story. In an emotional interview, Lisa revealed the truth about the breakdown of her marriage to Doug. She spoke candidly about the emotional neglect she experienced and the feeling of being invisible in her own relationship. She also expressed the pain of seeing Doug move on so quickly after their divorce. While she had always been supportive of his career, she had come to realize that Doug's work had taken precedence over their marriage for years. Lisa's decision to speak out resonated with many people who had experienced similar heartbreak. Her story gave voice to those who had felt neglected and unseen in their relationships. It was a raw and honest portrayal of what had really happened behind the scenes, and it offered a deeper understanding of the complexities of marriage, even for those who appeared to have it all. The aftermath. Moving forward from heartbreak. Lisa Weiss's story is a poignant reminder that even those who help others navigate the complexities of relationships are not immune to the same struggles. Doug Weiss may have spent his career helping couples rebuild their marriages, but he could not save his own. His quick remarriage to Joni Lamb raised difficult questions about his commitment to the principles he had long espoused. Lisa's decision to break her silence was not just about airing her grievances, it was about reclaiming her voice and finding closure after a painful chapter of her life. In the end, the story of Doug and Lisa Weiss is one of heartbreak, betrayal, and the complexities of love and marriage. It serves as a reminder that even the most seemingly perfect relationships can crumble, and that the healing process is often much more difficult than anyone can imagine. For Lisa, speaking out was a way to find peace, and perhaps, in time, she will be able to rebuild her life and move forward from the heartbreak that once defined her. The quick transition. Doug's marriage to Joni Lamb. The real shock, however, came just months after the divorce. Doug remarried Joni Lamb, co-founder of the Daystar Television Network, with remarkable speed. The rapid transition from his 30-year marriage to a new wife left many people reeling. To onlookers, it seemed as though Doug had swiftly moved on, perhaps even before the ink had dried on his divorce papers. The timing of this marriage raised eyebrows, especially considering the emotional upheaval of his previous separation. Joni Lamb, a prominent figure in the Christian broadcasting world, had also experienced her own personal tragedies. Her late husband, Marcus Lamb, had passed away in 2021, leaving Joni to navigate the immense grief of losing her life partner. It was in this period of loss and emotional vulnerability that she and Doug began their relationship. To some, this seemed like a natural connection. Two people who had experienced profound loss and found comfort in each other's presence. However, for others, the timing of their relationship felt suspicious, especially given Doug's rapid shift from one marriage to another. Was Doug already emotionally involved with Joni before his divorce from Lisa? This question lingered in the air as rumors began to swirl that their relationship had evolved behind the scenes before the separation. Was their bond truly rooted in mutual respect and healing, or was it more complicated than it appeared? The public speculated endlessly about the nature of Doug and Joni's relationship, and the more they learned, the more questions seemed to arise. Lisa's pain and confusion. Breaking her silence. For Lisa, the suddenness of Doug's remarriage was deeply painful. After years of trying to preserve their marriage and navigate the emotional turmoil of an unraveling relationship, she found herself forced to confront a new reality, one where Doug was with someone else. In interviews, Lisa opened up about her shock and the emotional toll that the quick remarriage took on her. She explained that while she had hoped for a different outcome, Doug's decision to marry Joni so soon after their separation left her with more questions than answers. "I did everything I could to save our marriage," Lisa admitted in one of her interviews. "And it really hurt me when he decided to separate from me. It hurt even more when he married Joni so soon after we separated. It made me ask myself a lot of questions. How could someone who had been married for so long get into another marriage so quickly? Was there something between them before the divorce?" These were not just questions born out of bitterness, but out of a deep sense of confusion and betrayal. Lisa had dedicated herself to their marriage, and after 3 decades together, the suddenness of Doug's new marriage to Joni felt like a betrayal of everything they had once shared. In a vulnerable moment, Lisa spoke about the difficulty of processing these emotions under the harsh spotlight of public scrutiny. "It was like the life we built together was erased in an instant," she said. "I was left to pick up the pieces in front of everyone, and it made everything so much harder." Doug's silence. Avoiding the questions. While Lisa was forthcoming about her feelings, Doug maintained an unusual silence. Despite the public's curiosity about the reasons for his divorce and the sudden shift in his personal life, Doug rarely spoke about the breakdown of his marriage with Lisa. Instead, he chose to focus on his new life with Joni. This silence was frustrating for many, particularly those who had looked to Doug as a counselor and public figure in the field of marriage and relationships. How could someone who had built his career on helping others navigate their marriages not be transparent about his own? Doug's reluctance to address the reasons for his divorce or to openly discuss the challenges he faced in his marriage only deepened the sense of mystery surrounding the situation. His critics began to question whether Doug had truly practiced what he preached. After all, how could a man who spent his career helping others rebuild their relationships fail to do the same for his own? The involvement of Daystar Television, a network in crisis. As the drama surrounding Doug's divorce and remarriage unfolded, the controversy quickly spread to Daystar Television Network, the Christian broadcasting giant co-founded by Joni Lamb and her late husband, Marcus Lamb. Daystar had long been known for its focus on family values, faith-based content, and a commitment to providing spiritual guidance to its viewers. The network's leadership, particularly Joni Lamb, was closely scrutinized due to her involvement in the unfolding drama surrounding Doug's quick remarriage. Daystar's public image, which had been built on principles of family unity and strong Christian values, was now being questioned. How could the network continue to promote messages about the sanctity of marriage when one of its key leaders, Joni Lamb, had remarried so quickly after the death of her husband, Marcus? The timing of Doug and Joni's marriage raised uncomfortable questions about the network's commitment to the values it preached. The public's growing skepticism about the authenticity of Daystar's messaging was compounded by the unfolding family drama. It seemed that the Lamb family's personal lives were now inseparable from the network's image. The timing of Doug and Joni's marriage made it feel as though Daystar's leadership was no longer living up to its own standards. The firing of Jonathan Lamb, Daystar's internal struggles. As if the external controversies weren't enough, Daystar was rocked by an internal scandal that added fuel to the fire. Joni Lamb made the shocking decision to fire her own son, Jonathan Lamb, from his position at the network. Jonathan had been a key figure at Daystar for years, contributing both on-screen and behind the scenes. His sudden ousting left many viewers and insiders stunned. The timing of Jonathan's firing, coming amid the public scrutiny of Daystar's leadership and Doug and Joni's marriage, made the situation even more perplexing. Was the firing of Jonathan connected to the family drama surrounding Doug and Joni's relationship? Had tensions within the Lamb family reached a boiling point? The decision sent shockwaves through the Christian community, and many began to question the stability of Daystar as a whole. For viewers who had watched Jonathan grow up on Daystar, his firing felt like a betrayal. The network had long been seen as a symbol of family unity, yet now it seemed to be falling apart from the inside out. Critics wondered if the personal conflicts within the Lamb family were undermining the network's credibility and its ability to maintain the trust of its audience. The road ahead, a family and a network in crisis. As Lisa Weiss continued to share her story, the situation surrounding Doug, Joni, and Daystar grew more complicated. The revelations about their personal lives left many people questioning the authenticity of the leadership at Daystar and whether the network's messaging about family values was still credible. Meanwhile, Lisa's journey of healing and rebuilding her life after her divorce was just beginning. For Doug and Joni, the road ahead was likely to be fraught with public scrutiny. Their relationship, now under a microscope, would continue to be a subject of intense interest. As for Jonathan, his future within Daystar remained uncertain. Would he reconcile with his mother and return to the network, or would he choose to carve out his own path in the world of Christian media? In the midst of these struggles, Daystar's leadership remained largely silent about the controversy, leaving many to wonder whether transparency and honesty might help rebuild trust. The Lamb family's private conflicts were now a matter of public debate, and the repercussions of their actions were being felt far beyond their personal lives. For Lisa, Doug, Joni, and the Lamb family, the coming months would be pivotal in determining how they moved forward. Would they find a way to reconcile their personal struggles with the public image they had once carefully crafted? Or would the cracks in their relationships continue to widen, threatening to shatter the facade they had worked so hard to build? The unfolding drama was a powerful reminder that even those who preach about love, faith, and family are not immune to the complexities and challenges that come with human relationships. And as the story of Doug and Lisa Weiss, Joni Lamb, and Daystar Television Network continues to evolve, one thing is certain: it has left an indelible mark on the lives of those involved and on the public's perception of faith-based media.